pig having babies, and actually called a sow farrowing. If you'll remember, we gave her Ludolice yesterday at 1:30 in the afternoon. She started having babies at 9:30 this morning, so that is 20 hours, and I told you usually 18 to 28 hours is about the normal. So she started at hour 20. And again, we talked about these babies being small, cutting back their feed at the end to make sure they're not chunky babies, and they're not. We also talked about the first baby being smaller. So if you'll see, this little baby is the first baby right here. And then this baby beside it is the fourth baby. So we talked about the first baby and the fourth baby. Third and fourth being bigger, first and second being smaller. This was number 2, the little black one. So again, these are smaller. It kind of opens the cervix, good for the mama. She's talking to her babies. So that encourages them to nurse. It's a good temperature out. It's around 70 degrees, but they need to be super hot. So there is an area, again, we talked about the farrowing crate. So that is their warm heat lamp area. So after they get a full belly, they will learn to go sleep over there. So mama can get up and down without sacrificing a baby in the process. They'll kind of sleep over there. So if they're asleep and she lays down, she won't lay down on them. This is, sorry about the turn of the video, but I need you to see her. So there she is. And she actually has had a super great delivery so far. So she has water right beside her, these little waterers. She has one up high and one down low, so if she stands up, she can have water. Oh, you see that? So if she moves, this is that safe zone we were talking about. If she gets a pig squished, then they can roll out from underneath here, and that's why we put them in these farrowing crates. So there's on this side, there's a safe zone. On this side, behind, see there's a safe zone. Over on this side, there's another safe zone. So mama stays here. Babies can go there. Babies can come here. Babies can go back there. Nobody gets hurt. Her feeder her water's right here for her. She's kind of got it pushed out right now. That's her feed trough, so we can feed her from the outside, from the front. And she likes to eat. We'll feed her all she can eat after she gets done having these babies, so she'll make lots of milk. We haven't had any problems at all, but if we do have problems, I want to make sure you understand that you should not put your hand into a sow to help pull a baby unless she's having tremendous problems. Tremendous problems being a pig not born in 30 to 45 minutes, or no signs of labor, or a lot of labor and no production. So when they're in labor, they will pass a good bit of fluid. If you see meconium or that baby pig poop in the fluid and there's no baby within about 20 minutes, that's a problem. But when you do, so when you feel like you need to call the veterinarian, that's the best thing to do. If your veterinarian is not available and you feel like you can stick your hand in there and pull that baby that's right there, you need to make sure you clean. Okay, so I use iodine and I use a sterile lube. So we use a lubrication to go in there so we don't rip her or dry her out. So I will mix, I'll make sure she's really clean with iodine. I will use gloves. I see people all the time not using gloves, and that's not a good thing because you're gonna get her infected if you do that. Now, I wanna see this right here. See this umbilical cord that's still attached? That is normal. When they're born, the umbilical cord stays attached until they get up and walk around and find a teat, and then it will break. And that's a healthy piglet. Sometimes they'll come out and the umbilical cord's already broken. Sometimes that means that it broke too early and she had some trouble, and that's not a good thing. I do cut these off eventually, so I'll let them, because they're dragging. You see there's a floor down there, and so they're up off the floor, so they're not dragging through the dirt too bad, but when that umbilical cord falls through there, they're going to drag in the dirt. Well, it's concrete, but it's dirty. And that umbilicus goes directly into the pig's abdomen and attaches to the liver and some other structures, and you don't want it to be infected, because when you get an infected umbilical cord or a belly button, right, then they will a lot of times have on a hernia, because they get that little spot infected and it doesn't allow the body wall to close all the way, and that's how you get a lot of hernias. So hernias can be genetic, they can be inherited, but they can also be caused by unclean conditions where that umbilical cord gets infected. So I will actually come along later, cut that, so I'll clamp it on 2 places, cut it in the middle, and dip that in iodine as well. Iodine is your friend when it comes to baby pigs. The other thing we will do for them is, and I'll show you that in a separate video, we'll give them an iron injection. That's very important for them. We'll notch ears, we'll clip tails. I'll show you all of that too, and that's how we identify pigs. So we identify animals by branding, or mostly in horses and cattle. We'll ear tag in cattle and goats. We can tattoo. So we do a lot of different things. In horses now, they're not considered food animals anymore, so we will microchip them. So you can't microchip a food animal, but you can microchip a horse or a dog, and that's another stout form of identification. Again, you can see that umbilical cord stretching as they nurse over each other. Now, the interesting thing about baby pigs is that they will find a teat in the next day or so, and they will stay with that teat. So they don't swap around. They actually will find their spot and they go there. So that's why it's hard to introduce new pigs into the litter over about 3 or 4 days. So if my other mama has problems and she has babies that need to be transferred over, we can graft baby pigs onto a sow without issue, as long as it's within 3 days or so, because after that, those teats that aren't being nursed will start to dry up. So she'll have one teat that's big and making milk, one mammary gland, and the next mammary gland may be dry. So she only will make enough milk that she needs. What else? These guys, I don't even know what they are. I haven't even looked yet, whether they're male or female, but we'll take a count when we're done. We try not to count before because a lot of them get squished, or even with all of our safety precautions, they will still get squished because, again, when she rolls up, that can be a problem. And I will update you when she is finished with her litter. I'll show you the placenta after she passes the placenta. Each piglet has its own individual amniotic sac, but then the placenta is one placenta for the whole uterus, or so sometimes they'll pass one side and then pass the other side, but most of the time, by the time they pass the placenta, they're done, because all those babies are out at that point. If they start passing placenta before the pigs are out, or the last couple pigs are out, they'll be born dead, because that's already detached and they're done getting oxygen. So that's the most important thing when they come out, is that they're breathing. So that's why that umbilical cord stays attached until they're born, because once they get out and start breathing, we don't need the umbilical cord anymore. All right, she's pushing. She's about to have some more. I'm gonna go see what she's got.